Architecture vision is called as phase A of ADM. ADM is architecture development method. As we know, architecture development method is a framework to create enterprise architecture. In architecture vision, we develop a first cut high level description of the baseline and target architectures. The architecture vision provides a key tool to sell the benefits of the proposed capability to stakeholders and decision makers within the enterprise. It describes how the new capability will meet the business goals and address the stakeholders' concerns when implemented. So the key objectives in architecture vision is to build high level vision of the capabilities and the business value and obtaining the approvals to go ahead from the higher management. All the outputs of preliminary phase are by default inputs for architecture vision, that is phase A. The request for architecture work is a document that is sent from the sponsoring organization. Sponsoring organization is an organization which want the architecture to be implemented. So sponsoring organization will send it to the architecture organization, and the architecture organization is the organization which is going to develop the architecture, and this is sent from sponsoring organization to the architecture organization to trigger the start of an architecture development cycle. Request for architecture work can be created as an output of the preliminary phase, that is a new business idea, or a result of approved architecture change requests. We have already an architecture in place, but due to some change requests, we have to implement another request. We have to request and get the architecture work for this change request, or from migration planning. I have made a video on request for architecture work, so please check my channel. Stakeholder needs. Stakeholders may come up with their needs, and all of the needs may not be required immediately. Some of them may be very important to resolve in near future, but some of them can wait. So scope defines what stakeholder needs are to be prioritized and what are not. An organization model describes how roles, responsibilities, and relationships are structured to govern, develop, and operate the architecture. All of this to ensure clear ownership, effective governance, and smooth execution of the architecture vision and the roadmap. Current state architecture describes the as-is view of an organization's business, data, application, and technology, that is BDAT, landscape, to provide a clear understanding of where the organization is today and to enable informed decisions and to check the transformation, readiness, and for the future state of planning. So it is important to know this current state architecture. So having these requests for architecture work, stakeholder needs, organization model, and current state architecture as inputs into architecture vision, it will be helpful. There are many other inputs as well, but these are the important inputs to perform the steps of architecture vision. How we form the architecture vision and what steps are performed. So if you see this ladder from 1 to 11, we have several steps that we are going to follow in order to create the architecture vision and the outputs of architecture vision phase A. So first is the establish the architecture project. To establish any project, we work towards explaining how it provides value to the business. So we are basically showing the work to get the recognition for the project. When we get the recognition, we will automatically get the support from line management and also a go ahead from the higher management. So establishing the architecture project is our first step. And then second, identify stakeholders, concerns, and business requirements. As discussed, Stakeholders identification for a clear understanding of who is impacted, who decides, and who influences the architecture vision will form the basis for stakeholder mapping and also communication planning. So, understanding what concerns and what are the viewpoints, needs, and cultural facts, and what circumstances are creating these needs, and how are they connecting on a whole to understand a holistic view of it is important. So, this is how the identification part is done. I have made a video on views and viewpoints, architecture views and viewpoints. Please check my channel for that. Number 3, confirm business goals, drivers, and constraints. If these are already defined, if the goals, drivers, and constraints are already defined, ensure that the definitions are current and clear, and also clarify if there are any areas of ambiguity. Otherwise, define these goals and secure their endorsement by the management. Define any constraints that must be dealt with. Number 4, evaluate capabilities. A capability assessment is performed to understand what capabilities are needed in order to achieve the target architecture. So identify the target architecture and identify the options to realize those capabilities. Like the organization may need a data engineer. Options could be hiring an engineer or grooming an existing employee or contracting one. So anything it can be. So create an initial picture of what capabilities are needed and document those. We are not solving anything here. We are putting a list to implement later. That is storing them in capability assessment. That's about evaluating the capabilities. Assess readiness for business transformation. So before we get into changing the business, we should be checking whether we are ready to transform or not. Readiness factors can be executive sponsorship. So we have to check whether we have active leadership and decision authority support. Where are we on strategic alignment? Is there a clean and clear linkage between architecture, vision, and business strategy? As an organization, are we ready? What is the willingness in change of culture, skills, etc.? And what is the governance maturity? Whether organization stands today with the established decision making, standards, and compliance process or not? And what are the capabilities and skills? Are there available? Are the architects or domain experts and delivery teams, all these skills and capabilities are available or not? And where are we standing on technology readiness? Where are we standing on financial readiness? What kind of quality we have in data? Whether the information is integrated or not? Whether we have the integration maturity? And what kind of compliance and risk readiness are we into? Or did we identify all the risks? Do we have mitigation activities associated to the risk? And are we ready for the change management? So these are some questions which we should be asking before we say that we are ready for the business transformation. And if we see any gaps and risks, then we have to shape them properly so that the roadmap looks clear and clean, and define all the mitigation actions for the risks and ensure that architecture vision is realistic and achievable. I have done a video on gap analysis. Please check my channel for that. The next is define scope. Scope is what we derive from the stakeholders' needs and what is important for now and what can wait. So having a list of must have, good to have, and nice to have, and working on the must haves, then good to have, and then nice to have will be the priority. So stakeholders may come up with their needs, and all of the needs may not be needed immediately. So some of them may be very important to resolve in near future, but some can wait. So scope defines what stakeholder needs are to be prioritized and what are not. And next, confirm and elaborate architecture principles, including business principles. Ensuring that any existing definitions are current and clear, and clarifying if any areas of ambiguity is there. If principle do not exist, go to the governing body who is responsible for architecture governance and work with them to define the principles. Then comes develop architecture vision. Create a simple conceptual diagram. That diagram will show what are the main components and how the flow is working between those main components and their importance to the business. And use some business scenarios techniques to document the requirements and show the fulfillment of them, a plan as a high level plan. So this would help in creating a high level of what current architecture is and how target architecture would be. So this is what we put it in the architecture vision. Then comes define the target architecture value propositions and KPIs. Assess the business scenarios of requirement with the business value. So you can have risk at the x-axis and value in the y-axis, and then you can find out which ideas are to be prioritized first and what will be added to the strategic alignment and which will provide more value to the business. Define key performance metrics to check them regularly to understand the compliance. I have made a video on how to identify business value. Please check my channel. And then next comes identify the business transformation risks and mitigation activities. Like we discussed, identify all the risks and its potential frequency. How frequent are they going to repeat? There are two kinds of risk. Initial level of risk, where the risk categorization prior to determining and implementing the mitigation activities. So we identify a risk, but we don't have an action here. That is the initial level of risk. Residual level of risk. This categorization is after implementation of the mitigation activities. So now we have a risk and we know what control measures we have to take, how to mitigate it. Then that risk will be a residual level of risk. So have the risks already and then have a mitigation activity with that so that the business transformation will be smooth. And the next one is develop statement of architecture work and secure approvals. Include all the work done in the above steps like capability assessment, business value, risks and mitigation activities, KPIs, defined KPIs, business scenarios, communication planning and approvals from the sponsors, and get the sign off from the approvers. So these are the steps that we need to perform in order to have the architecture vision document. What are the outputs? So we have performed all these steps. Now there are certain outputs that are very important to capture, like statement for architecture work, which will have all the steps what we have done, the outputs from those steps. It will have like project description, architecture vision, and then the plan and schedule, the approvals, everything. And then communication plan. Communication plan includes what are communication channels. So channels can be like workshops, presentation, emails, dashboards, town halls, etc. And when and how often communications occur. That is the frequency and timing of it. How stakeholder input and concerns are captured, which is a feedback mechanism. So all this will form a communication plan. Then comes the target state architecture. So we will create a draft of target architecture definition, which would further develop in next phases. And if there are any business principles already existing, we will refine them. Otherwise, we will create with the help of governing bodies. And we store all the outputs that are coming from the steps we performed into the architecture repository. Let us see the example. So here the example is a supermarket retail enterprise example. Its vision is to transform the supermarket chain to digital and data driven and customer centric, and to support the efficiency growth and enhancing the customer experience. So this is the vision, and what are the drivers that are defined. So competition from other players is one of the driver. Changing customer expectation. The changes, always there will be a change in customer expectation, which is another challenge. And visibility in inventory, having the transparency what we have and what we need. And then expansion of business is very important. That's a challenge too. And then all the decisions has to be taken by data driven. So these are the drivers. And to address these, we come up with a high level plan, which includes a uniformed enterprise retail platform, which supports expansion of business and customer experience, a store digitization for changing the business and visibility, customer experience transformation for better experience of the customer, data analytics for data driven decisions, and governance with better data, with facts, and having the key performance indicators, scalability for expansion of business, organization and governance for better model to operate, to have clear roles, and for consistency. So all these things will provide better and best ways to stay competitive and to perform better than other players. Thank you for watching my video. Hope this is clear and you understand. Subscribe my channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Also comment your feedback and whatever you feel. That will encourage me and help me in doing better videos. Check my playlist that has more videos on enterprise architecture. Thank you.